sign on.
Jump off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa.
Promise you joy in the mystery.
Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, laugh, love, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And welcome. Oh, wait. Where's my applause? Now I'm in charge with my own applause. Welcome. You are tuned into my weekly talk radio TV show called Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get happy, get balanced with Dr. Marissa every Friday now. My new time at drive time, prime time, 3 p.m. on my CNBC NBC News Radio channel, KCAA, AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, and on demand just about everywhere. Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Tiki Live, Spreaker, Spotify. So you just Google Dr. Marissa and you will get a splatter zone full of hope and happiness, because that's what this show is about. So there's no gossip, no scandal, and no K words. No Kardashian talk at all, because I want you to focus on your own reality show and how you can be happy and balanced 88% of the time. So we have topics to that end. If you've missed any of my past shows, we just did a best of. Well, they're all the best of, but because I just finished with 8 years with UBN Go Studios, and it's a bittersweet, but I had to do a little, something's got to give. So when KCAA invited me into a primetime slot, that was the time to say, I love you, Tony Sweet, and I love all the things that we've gone through, and I'll miss you, but it is time to sort of make that next step, and that's why you are seeing me with KCAA all the time on Friday. This week, though, is still my 455th consecutive week on the air, and that deserves a little. And I'm so delighted, because it is so absolutely fun, absolutely wonderful. I so appreciate the support. And let's go over and see. We've got Dee Noel there, Henry Ricardo from Ecuador, Dee Noel's in Indiana, and I remember this time your auntie's in Illinois. But I'm so grateful for all of the support through these 8 years, over 8 years now, and I'm delighted to still be here. And we're talking about self-care today, and we're having just a little bit of a hiccup to get on my guest today, who is from not Vancouver, from Nova Scotia, and her, Sandra McNeil is a friend of mine, became a friend through the internet, and she approached me and was very interested in the work that I was doing, and asked to sponsor herself on my show, which she is, and but she's not on here right now. So we're just going to go through some of the self-tip, and then please, Dee Noel, if you have any questions, or Henry, on self-care, the tips that you are looking for, or anything in particular that you're having a little bit of a challenge with, and we will do a little Q&A today as we wait for my guest. And she said she's here, but she's not in the studio yet. So I am, hopefully she can hear me. And I do have her phone number, so we'll maybe talk her through this. But any questions? Let's see. Oh, Dino's saying that her daughter's good. They had a paint day today. And hi, you are not in the studio, so I don't know where you are. So did you get that link? No. You,
Dr. Marissa.
yes, but you have to go through that link that I sent you. Otherwise, you're not going to get into the studio.
Okay.
So I emailed you the link like you told me to because you couldn't get it off Messenger. So if you just click that.
Yeah, but I was in that link, and I'm back in there again.
Oh.
In the studio.
There you are. You just showed up. You weren't before. Here we go. All right, here she is.
Hello.
Yay! Okay, so now I get to do my introduction to Sandra. I know that I'm so grateful that you're all flexible. We're playing a little bit with different things in the studio as well. So that is why we are just having a little bit of fun here. Let me just don't say anything yet. Sandra McNeil is a holistic coach that helps people all over the world live deeper with purpose, passion, joy, and fulfillment from Nova Scotia, Canada. Her diverse experience from working in healthy, sustainable interior design to public environmental health, along with overcoming a lot of challenges personally, was a catalyst to following her holistic path and to helping others on their journey to their best life. She loves to help people love their life, learn to cope, heal from everything from grief and trauma to facing fears, and ignite the light inside through personal coaching, workshops, and speaking engagements. She's also a writer, an artist, a musician, and encourages others to use various mediums like art and music to connect, heal, and tune into their best self. So please do welcome, help me welcome Sandra McNeil to the studio. There we go.
Hello, Dr. Marissa. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you too. Thank you for making it on. And I want to get straight to it because we have spent a little bit of time just trying to get you on. So let's get straight to the topic at hand, which is self-care. So why don't you help me define or help get on the same page so that when you're saying self-care, what do you mean by that?
Well, self-care is providing whatever we need to feel good in body, mind, or spirit. So physically, if you need rest, eat properly, you're tired, or you need to change your environment, physically, mentally, spiritually, you know, feed your soul, music. It's basically looking after yourself the best way you know how, so that you can tune into what you need and tune into what your best self and basically enjoy your life. And I won't get ahead of us, but you know, when we practice self-care, we're able to cope better. We're able to tune in. We're able to manage stress better, and we feel more connected. And the more connected we feel, the less we're frazzled. You know, we're clearer. Everything is better. So
yeah. So that's the why. That's the WIFM. Why self-care? It sounds like a silly question, but I think because many women that I work with say, I don't have time for myself. And does that sound familiar? I don't have time for myself. So I can't take time for myself because I'm taking all this time to take care of other people. So why is it important that you take this time for yourself and self-care?
well, if we don't, we're giving from an empty cup. right? So our cup has to be full or we have nothing to give. And usually it's people feel just so selfish to do this for themselves, but it's really self-full. I believe Ayana says that, but it's self-full, because if you don't, you have nothing to give. Even if, if it's 2 minutes or 1 minute, or schedule it in your day. Easier said than done sometimes, right? Like everybody's busy, but if not, you'll burn out, you'll become bitter, and you really don't have much to give. So I think we all know the airplane analogy, right? Put the oxygen on your face first before you put it on the child, because you're no good to your child or looking after anyone or anybody if you're not well. And
right.
So, yeah.
Right. Good. Do you mind adjusting the light, because your face is just a little bit in the dark, and I want people to be able to see your beautiful smile. So if there's a light you can turn on there, that would be great. And beautiful paintings in the back. So Dee Knoll says self-care is very important. And she's absolutely correct. I do want to say, though, there's a balance point. So I don't know if you remember, you might all be too young for this, but there was a point where women went to the other extreme. So their lives were all about taking care of everybody. And I think there was a movie, I'm trying to remember, where she, just ups and leaves, because she says, it's now time for me. I have to go find myself. And I think for a while there, that pendulum sort of swung to the other extreme. So we went from completely codependent, helping other people, sacrificing our own time and lives, and we said, screw this, and we went to the other extreme, which is screw you, and I'm just going to think about me. So I just want to put that balance point, that there's a balance between overdoing it, taking care of others, and underdoing it, taking care of ourselves. So would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Balance. So if you schedule a little bit of just what you need every day, I think that's where routine is really powerful, whether it's a little bit of meditation or reflection, even if it's 5 minutes with your coffee or that little walk on your lunch break or something. So you have it already in there, then it's not too much, but it's a lifestyle. And
Yes.
and you're able to it's a little easier to maintain balance and boundaries. And, to be able to say no, because that's part of it too, I think, right?
Absolutely. So,
Yeah.
So when do you say no? I think that's a question, especially we have Dee Knoll on, who has 2 kids and a husband, which sometimes maybe that means 3. Sorry, just kidding. But when, because I know when my kids ask me something and I cannot deliver, I feel guilty for not being able to satisfy their needs. So what is the, is there a formula when you can say no, or, between the hours of such and such, you don't have to fulfill any requests?
That's a tough one. Well, that is a tough one, because if, you want to do everything you can for your family, but you also have to be aware of how you feel. Pay attention to how you feel, I would say. So if you're paying attention to your emotions, if you're feeling bitter or something like that, then there's an imbalance there, right? Can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you. Actually, I'm getting a little glare now.
Okay.
It's like super bright. It makes your
Dark here, it's right there. We're 4 hours. We're 4 hours ahead, so it's dark. So I would say pay attention to how you feel, because our emotions are an indicator of power and how we feel. So if you're starting to feel bitter, somebody's still bugging you, do this, can you do this for me? Well, obviously there's an imbalance there, right? That's your intuition saying, no. And so you need to speak up and say, okay, well, I can't do that right now, or maybe later, or whatever. But when we pay attention to how we feel, that gives us, we're able to really pay attention to how we're thinking and everything else. So, yeah,
So listening to yourself. Hello, Nikki. Let me know where you are tuning in from. I'm guessing from your last name, maybe the Philippines, but just let me know where you're tuning in from. Dee Knoll saying, I have a hard time saying no, but then some days I just say I'm going to lock myself in the room, so you take the kids. So the whole, I think self-care, as the way that Sandra is explaining, is that balance between, you know, how do we take care of others and take care of ourselves, and that swing is going to be listening to your intuition or your voice inside. Is that about accurate?
yes. I would
Beautiful.
say.
And if you just tuned in and you're wondering what's going on, how come you're on the air live on a Friday instead of a Tuesday at noon? You are tuned into Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get Balanced, Get Happy with Dr. Marissa, which is now moved from Tuesday at noon to every Friday, drive time, prime time at 3 p.m. Pacific time. And I am now full-time with my KCAA CNBC NBC News Radio channel, AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere on my YouTube channel, on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Stitcher, blah, blah, blah. And I am so delighted to have today a self-care expert from our northern cousin. Those of you know I was born in Canada, and I'm delighted to have Sandra McNeil here with me, who is a self-care expert, and she's talking to us on how we can better take care of ourselves now, especially now during the pandemic. So let's go there for a second. Now, normally it's important for you to take care of yourself, right? Especially if you take care of other people. But why now is it even more important? And what do you do on top of what you normally do because of the pandemic?
Okay, so we all know about, well, most of us know about the public health precautions we should be taking. So, you know, not touching our face or mucous membranes, things like that, washing our hands, especially before we eat, and touching anything and touching our eyes and our face, which is hard to do, but wearing a mask and all that fun stuff. So, but you nailed it. Safe care or self-care is really powerful, because when we look after ourselves, we're stronger and we feel better. And when we feel better, our body responds to that. You know, we're building endorphins. We're able to fight infection better. We're able to heal and recover better, just like yourself. You've been recovering, and you're so positive. That really does. The body responds, right? So again, it goes back to paying attention to how you feel, because if we pay attention to how we feel, you're actually taking your power back right there, because you're becoming aware. And when you become aware, usually we're on autopilot, right? So we're just going. And as you said, okay, a busy mom or whatever, they're so busy. You're on autopilot. So you're not really able to think. And when we pay attention to how we feel, right away, that allows us to become aware. And so we're able to pay attention to how we're thinking, because how we're thinking affects how we feel, and how we feel affects our bodies, our actions, and everything we just said. So, you know, your ability to fight infection and your ability to heal. So you're really just making yourself stronger for the virus. You're better to be around, more positive and supportive of others, and kinder. And that's what we need right now. You're more patient. You know, you can handle the stress, the fear of the unknown a little easier, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. So let's go back to this, the feeling and the thinking. So self-care starts with your feeling or your thinking?
Almost, well, people, in my opinion, it's thinking, but it's slightly above thinking.
Okay.
We need to know Because if we're not thinking right, our thoughts are based on our belief systems. And if our belief system is off, then our thinking is going to be off, right? So if we think, okay, I don't deserve to have this time for myself, I'm not good enough, all this kind of stuff, that's going to dictate our thinking. And our thinking is going to dictate how we feel and our emotions and our behaviors and all that. So we have to, so that's where self-love is really important, and self-acceptance. Because if you don't accept yourself or love yourself, right away, you're already adding resistance into the equation, right? So you're working against yourself. And it's like, when we tune in, we're tuning into our best, purest, best potential, right? Alignment. So we're tuning into everything of the universe, our intuition, our confidence. You feel alive. You feel like you have more energy. And when we're beating ourselves up, that's actually pinching off our alignment. So as you know, the universe, we're part of a beautiful universe. We're an extension of source energy. And this universe wants us to love ourselves. And if we don't love ourselves, then we can't have a full life, because that's almost like even loving somebody else with a half heart, because you have to be full yourself.
Right.
So,
okay. So there you're touching on a huge foundational point of, you cannot self-care if you don't care for yourself.
Bingo.
So you don't feel worthy.
Bingo.
If you don't feel you deserve, if you don't feel good enough, then it doesn't matter how many people tell you to do self-care or what steps to do or go take a walk or eat healthy or whatever it is, you'll reject that because fundamentally you don't deserve it. So there's a huge ding, 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 ding that went off when you were talking, that I don't, you can have a list, because Dino was like, I want to hear your tips for self-care, right? And if you don't fundamentally believe that you deserve it, then it doesn't matter how many tips come. If you have, and I'll just play my head and see if you can identify with this. So if I don't believe that I'm worthy of having a healthy, attractive, wealthy existence, then it's going to be when someone says, well, you need to take care of yourself, that's going to be foreign mumbo jumbo, because I'm not going to, but I don't, it doesn't matter. So I'm going to eat that giant donut at 10 o'clock at night because, it's really not worth, or I'm going to have that drug or smoke or drink or all the things that we fill ourselves with that we know we shouldn't, that are particularly well, we're in a pandemic, who cares? Like, what difference is it going to make? So I'm going to do it anyways, because fundamentally it doesn't matter. I don't matter. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to take care of myself. So can you say I matter 80% of the time? That's the question.
That's a good question. Exactly.
So do you care that you are a person that's worth 80% of the time?
Yeah. And it took me a long
ask me that question.
That's the question we need to ask. And are you asking me?
Ask me that question.
Do you feel that you're worthy to take care of yourself 80% of the time?
Absolutely. Dino, do you? Anybody who's listening right now, I want you to ask that question. Just take a minute and just feel, do you feel worthy 80% of the time for self-care? And thank you for getting that succinct with the crux of self-care, Sandra.
No worries.
That was brilliant. So, okay. So if we're all saying yes, okay, Dino said yes. Okay, good. And she said good points. So if that is true and you feel worthy, so then what should you do? How do you feel better? How do you take your power back? How do you self-care? Give me the how.
Okay, so again, pay attention to how you feel, right? Ask yourself, one really good practice, again, is in the morning. So I used to be, I would literally wake up, check my email, have my coffees, go in the car, commuting, whatever, go, 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 go. It wouldn't take 2 seconds, right? For myself, and we're already going with the craziness of the day. Now I have to have a little reflection, no matter where I am, even if it's 2 minutes. And sometimes people don't even have 2 minutes. Lock yourself in the bathroom if you need to. But morning is, I would say, is one of the most powerful things we can do, because when we sit still and we just, some people meditate or whatever it is, I call it a reflection. I have a little glider, which I never thought I'd have, but I love it. And I just sit there and I'll read and I have my coffee. But when we do that, then you ask yourself, what do I need? And as you're quiet, then you can start to establish what you need. So your inner voice is going to tell you, you need to schedule this. You need to have more time for yourself, or maybe you need to forgive somebody. But only you know what you need. And so the morning is a really good way to do that. And what that also does is it helps us get stronger for the day. So if we're grounded, if we take those 2 minutes with your coffee or work yourself up to a half hour or however long you can, you have more strength to face the day. You're less edgy. You build more momentum. You're able to get into a nice, this is where you get to dream and imagine things, and a lot of different ideas come. So, I would say that's one of the most powerful things you can do. And then you can decide, okay, well, maybe it is I need to exercise more. Maybe it is I need to eat more. And one big thing that I've learned late, and it was a game changer for me, is guilt. Guilt is not from divine or from, we're all ingrained. I believe we're conditioned to feel bad, and different religions tell us to feel bad and stuff like that. I'm not against, religion. I'm not against that, but I'm just saying, I think we're often so hard on ourselves. And that is one of the most damaging things. So when we eat that cake, you might as well, if you ate it, don't beat yourself up. Because that negative self-defeating behavior is just as damaging to us as well, because that's you're getting back into that cycle, like I'm no good and blah, blah, blah. Then, so the guilt thing is really important as well. And again, that's when you pay attention to how you feel, you're able to really take captive of each thought. And then the more positive you're thinking, the more you build momentum, the more confident you feel, the more you're loving yourself, the more everything else flows in your life. So just ask yourself what you need and start doing it.
And listen to the answers that will come, is what you're saying too.
Yeah.
So Martin Weech says, yes, yes, yes to self-care, and even more, have someone take care of me. I think you're trying to be a little bit funny. But I'm happily, I am my own best friend right now, and I'm pretty good to myself, and I've learned how to do that. So I am delighted. We're going to take a little break to thank the sponsors that make this show possible for today, and we will be back with more self-care talk, self-care tips with Sandra McNeil on Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It. Get happy with Dr. Marissa. Peace in, peace out. World peace through inner peace. We'll be right back. Are you tired of the pandemic? Are you feeling fatigued all the time? Do you know how to self-care? Well, there's good news for you. Sandra McNeil is a self-care, self-love expert in Nova Scotia, Canada, who can help you find the strength to thrive even during the pandemic. You can get a free shoulder to lean on and consult when you sign up at www.nanakateslighthouse.com. That's www.nanakateslighthouse.com. Tuned into my weekly talk radio TV show called Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get Balance with Dr. Marissa. Today's guest is from Nova Scotia, Canada. Her name is Sandra McNeil, and she is a self-care expert, and I wanted her to come and talk about self-care and how we can do it and how extra important it is during the pandemic. So we've already talked about the foundation, which is you have to care about yourself to do self-care. So 80% of the time, can you say that you are worthy, you are good, you are important? And if you can't do that, there's so many people you can work with. That's what coaches are for. Sandra's a coach, I'm a coach. There's so many different things that you can do. There's books out there. My 8 Ways to Happiness is a guidebook. So there's really no reason for you not to explore how worthy you are right now, especially during the pandemic where we've paused and now have time to ask that question, do I care about myself 80% of the time? So back to Sandra McNeil, who has many, is that artwork behind you, your own artwork?
Got my little doodles.
Wow. Yeah. So you talk about art and music being ways for self-care. Talk to me about that.
Oh, okay. Well, actually, since you brought that up, there's a painting. This is perfect. Can you see this?
Yes. Go back just a bit so we can get all the color. Wow, that's beautiful.
Okay. So this really actually explains what I'm saying. So this is a heart. So when we don't pay attention to how we feel, it's crooked. I know I'm not the so, you know, as we go through life, we go through a lot of crap and all that, and we get hurt, our heart gets broken, we go through trauma, lots of stuff. So our heart here, this is when our heart gets hardened. So if you become bitter and you're not forgiving and all this stuff, all this negative emotion, what it does, it's clogging us. So any negative emotion, anger, I know you've been really good to mention this on your show. If you have anger, when we hold it in, I mean, there's a way to express it, but it's all energy. So I'm glad you brought this up, because another way to practice self-care, and Brad Yates mentioned this as well, is energy hygiene. So we have to really look after our emotions. So this is, so like, let's say we're really bitter. Okay. And we're not forgiving. We're really angry. Well, depression is, you know, anger going inside. All this stuff builds up. And if we don't look after it and let go, and it really does pinch off our well-being, our coping skills, everything, our alignment, really. So it starts with loving ourselves and others. But we think of loving other people, but that's what this is about. So it's about loving other people, but loving yourself. And when we don't love ourselves, so let's say you're allowing somebody to really mistreat you and you're not feeling well and all this, well, there's a reason. So anytime we're not agreeing with what the universe says about us, we feel negative emotion, right? Mm-hmm. And that's our indicator. So I think Abraham Hicks said that. She's brilliant as well. And again, it's just about loving ourselves. And when we're not, and so if something's not working and, you know, you're doing that diet or you're you know, it doesn't work on willpower alone. Just as we just spoke to, you have to feel that you deserve to lose the weight. So you have to feel worthy, and you also have to believe that you're capable. So you're capable of achieving whatever you want to achieve. You're capable of fitting everything in, and the more we feel confident and that we deserve it, and we don't feel guilty to love ourselves,
Mhm.
the better we feel and everything else goes better. So,
Right.
yeah.
Right. Beautiful. We have a couple of question comments here. Martin actually was not being funny when he was talking about finding someone to take care of him. So I apologize. The way I read it, it sounded that way, but he's talking about, it wasn't until I was flat on my back in a coma, I didn't know that, Martin, that I saw how hard it was to be taken care of. So speak to the blocks. I know you were going to talk about the blocks to self-care. Is there a block around feeling vulnerable enough or willing enough to allow other people to take care of you? And I resemble that. I'm always, I got this, you know, thank you very much, I got this. So thanks, Martin, for bringing that up.
Good one. That's a good one, because I'm the same way. It took me getting very sick myself to be able to say, oh, okay, I need help, right? We don't like to ask, and we don't.
Where does that come from? Where does that come from?
I don't know. I think we're just ingrained to feel that vulnerability is weak, but it's actually strength. It demonstrates strength to be vulnerable and to express how we feel. We're just not really conditioned to do that.
Mhm.
But that's a really good point. It's hard to say help, but there's nothing wrong with that. And most people appreciate it because they feel valued and needed.
Yeah.
When we ask help.
I just got that connection with the critical voice you talked about earlier, who's always saying, you know, why did you do that, or you can't do this, or you can't do that, to the, oh my gosh, I just lost that thought. The ability to be vulnerable. When people when I make mistakes, which I hate making mistakes. I hate apologizing. I hate showing that I'm not perfect, because I have this life goal of being perfect, which is stupid, because we're human beings, we can't be perfect. And to break that habit yours was guilt. Mine was letting go of perfectionism. Perfectionism is that dis-ease that continues to rot my soul because I'm trying to be someone that I'm not. But when I screw up and I missed that take, that's the way I do it, missed take, then people will say, oh, you know, I feel close to you now. When you show that you're not so perfect, I feel, and I still have trouble. I was like, well, I still would rather you think I was perfect. But I know that it engenders me to more people when I'm not perfect. So I live out loud, and when I, screw up and shift happens and I talk about it, then it actually is more freeing. So absolutely. So Dino has a question for you. How do you handle the stress of death? She says, I didn't take time for myself this morning like I usually do, because I was anxious about my mom's dog that's dying and I had to go take a walk. How do you handle the stress of death? And this is especially important because of COVID. The 400,000 Americans who have died, many of them, not many, but Bernie, my friend Bernie died of COVID. My friend Marianne from Gilligan's Island, Don Wells, died of COVID complications just a couple of weeks ago. So I've lost personally from death. So how do you self-care or handle when death is there?
Okay. Well, and grief, and I've lost a lot of people close to myself as well. And I think one thing that we need to do is we need to allow ourselves to grieve. I made a mistake when my mother died. I didn't allow myself to grieve. I was just too busy and all this stuff. And then it finally came later. But we need to allow ourselves to grieve and do what you need to do. Just pay attention to how you feel and go easy on yourself, because grief goes in ebbs and flows. And I think, what did they say? It just changes. It doesn't go away, but it changes. And A lot of people are going through that, even grieving their lives right now because they're used to a certain lifestyle. They're used to different connections and routines. And so even like we think of youth and that, their school is different. It's almost like they're grieving that kind of process. So I would say, again, just asking yourself, what do you need? And give yourself permission to do that. Because if you don't, I know I felt bad and I would just be, and I don't mean to talk about me, but this is one thing I do kind of feel that, you know, lost a few people very close to me. And when we don't, it just if we bury it, it will come out. So take time to celebrate that person, you know, and whatever they feel they need to feel better and allow themselves. Get a good movie, get stuff out, get the emotion out.
We can tell you're Canadian with that out just now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I've lost my out. I love it. But I like what you said, the go easy on yourself. Go easy on yourself. Abraham Hicks talks about that a lot. Just you know, don't make such a hairy big deal of it. And at the risk of sounding indifferent or callous, I know that, and I'll just share my experience. So my dad died when he was 70 of lymphoma, and it's so interesting. We've almost made this big hairy deal out of dying. I don't want to belittle the feeling of loss. I don't want to say that, you know, it doesn't hurt. It hurts. Of course it hurts. It hurts because you want that person to be there. You want to be able to talk to them every day. And you want to be able to, you know, one of the biggest sad things is my father did not get to hold my daughters, you know, outside of that first, you know, 20 days when my younger daughter was 20 days old, it was the last time he held her. And he loved kids. And so there's that, wow, anger and grief and sadness. But then I saw myself after the first year, you know, almost choosing to stay on that pity pot, like to stay there. You know, his Father's Day and Christmas and his birthday and the day he died and going to the gravesite and da-da-da-da. And it was like, it's true. My dad would be like, what the fork are you doing? I don't want you to remember me like that. You know, I want you to remember me in the fullness of, and that's why in my book, it's like remembering people in the fullness of who they are and where they are. You know, they're not, health is just a transition. They're really not gone. We're all going there. We're in that dash right now, but we're going there. And so, you know, of course your mom's feeling sad that your dog is dying. Of course, because the dog was probably more important than a human being sometimes. But they're not going away. They're just going to the side, and you can access that side. I don't know if you're into Shirley MacLaine or anything, but you can access that other side. People talk all the time about having conversations with people who have passed. And so, you know, finding that balance between grieving and over grieving, you know, getting into that place of peace. And it is about peace. Sandra.
Absolutely. And even I relate with the pet as well. We lost my father and we buried him, and 2 hours later my dog dropped dead. So within the same day, both of them passed. And we just have to, and you know, and then there's lots of stuff happened, and we just celebrate them, I think. But that's another good point. Celebrate it. Don't make it, you know, make it a chapter, not your life. And but a lot of people don't talk about people that have died, and I think it's just like cancer. People don't want to talk about cancer. You need to talk about cancer. Cancer helps people get better. My mother would always say that. She overcame incredible odds for many years, and you know, so talk about people that died. it's okay. You just celebrate them.
Right.
A lot of people don't know how to communicate or relate, and they're like, oh geez, well, that person died, I don't want to talk about it. But usually the person that is grieving appreciates that, because they want to remember them. And if it's in a positive, I think it's okay to celebrate them. And like you said, just you don't want the pity party for the rest of your life, but you also need to honor those feelings. So
Absolutely.
just
Absolutely.
the balance again. And,
Yeah. So you said you also have gone through some tragedy to get to where you are. Can you share some of that? I don't know how much you want to share of that, just for people who can relate to, because you and I, we're like cheerleaders, and you can do this and whatever. But you mentioned in your bio that, through your own life experiences, I don't mean to put you on the spot if you want to share.
I just felt, well, I became a holistic coach a few years ago, and it just naturally happened. And I would say the catalyst of that was probably over, is a decade now, when my mother passed away. And so that would have been the spark. And at that time, and so I can relate to you as well about the perfectionist. Everything in my life had to be perfect. The house had to be perfect. The yard had to be perfect. The flowers had to be perfect. The meal had to be, everything was perfect all the time. And it wore me out. And, I was a workaholic, and my mother passed away, and I hit the wall because I didn't take time to grieve, and I didn't look after myself. So I was just going. And so that was kind of the spark. And I just knew deep down eventually that somehow I saw a life coach, and she started introducing some really neat techniques that I thought were incredible. So I said, someday I'll use that. And then years ago, I just knew it was I used to work in design and environmental health, a few different things. And I just wanted to help people. And so I started to study, and then the big turning point when my dad passed, I don't know, I don't want to talk too much, but again, it's paying attention to your gut. I just knew something was off with him, and actually came back from out west, and within 3 days we found out he had cancer, and he was dead in 2 months. Same day the dog died when we buried him, and then our house was hit by a flood quite bad. And then a few years later, I got really ill. And that was a big thing for me, was my wake up call. I had to sit still. I had to, you couldn't do anything.
It wasn't part of the plan to ask you that question, but I listened to the voice, and I'm glad you talked about that, because this is real stuff. So Martin talking about his coma. By the way, thank you for that comment. He said, self-care for me during COVID has been to go to grief support and listening to programs like this. Thank you. So, thank you, Martin, for that compliment. But you just became very real, of someone. So you've gone through this, and we all go through pain in life is mandatory.
Mm-hmm.
Suffering is optional.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing that everything happens for our divine and best good, and I say that all the time because I know that, I choose to know that. How you maneuver, and you give this great, you've lived this, right? You are a product of not taking care of yourself until you had to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
So there you go. And I think we all have that story. And maybe for some, COVID is that point. Maybe that's the blessing in this time. As much of it is uncomfortable, but just go easy. Yes. Give me the slogans that you would like to leave my listeners with, and how do we find you? So people who resonate with what you say and they want to talk to you about being coached, how do they find you?
Okay, they can find me on Facebook at Nana Kate's Lighthouse, or on my website, same thing, nanakateslighthouse.com. I'm on Twitter, and I think that's probably the best channels. And my contact phone number is there as well. Yeah. And I would just say, pay attention to how you feel. Focus on feeling good, because when you feel good, you're building endorphins, you're stronger, you're building momentum, everything else flows.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And I'm going to get yelled at if we don't sign out. Thank you so much, Sandra McNeil, for coming on. You keep it tuned to Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get happy with Dr. Marissa every Friday at 3 Pacific time. We'll see you next week. Have the best day ever. Peace in, peace out. World peace through inner peace.
Well, she has been dubbed the Asian Oprah, and she just wants all of us to be happy.
Dr. Marissa, aka the Asian Oprah, says the most important thing you can choose is choosing to be happy.
You are tuned into my weekly talk radio TV show called Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa.
That's the idea for Dr. Marissa Pay's new book called 8 Ways to Be Happy.
Many of us say, I am my own worst critic. Nobody's harder on me than I am. And my response to that is, stop it! Why are you doing that to yourself? You have to be your biggest fan, because if you can't at the end of the day say, I did a good job, who is? We don't have to constantly be angry at the things that are wrong. Why don't we choose to be happy about things that are right? We have the choice. That's our muscle. And life is so amazing if we can see it.